On Saturday, June 5, 2021, 26-year-old Cassie Brown, an avid canyoneer and beloved guide for the Zion Adventure Company, went on a solo canyoneering trip in Zion National Park. In the past, she had often joined other local canyoneers in trying out different terrains. Other times, she had also gone with her mother, who was a fellow enthusiast. However, she chose to go alone on this particular day for unknown reasons. Given Cassie's love for the hobby and her known dedication to safety, her trip was expected to be just another normal one, filled with the thrill of exploration. However, when she stepped out that morning, none of her family could have imagined it would be the last time they would see her alive. As she made her way through the trip, Brown reached a canyon that many considered easy to navigate. Just as she descended off it, she faced a challenge she hadn't anticipated. Her rope, a trusted lifeline that had secured previous descents, unexpectedly got stuck on a rappel. She repeatedly tried to shake it free from the rope, but it refused to budge. At this point, she was at a crossroads of choice. She could either wait for people to find her or try to ascend the rope to her previous route. But since there was no guarantee anyone else would traverse the canyon that day, the prospect of spending a long night trapped halfway down seemed not to appeal to her. Brown then decided to take the bold option of ascending the rope. Regrettably, her choice proved to be ill-fated. While ascending the rope, it unexpectedly gave way at some point. This sudden release propelled her into a harrowing free fall of approximately 50 to 80 feet, ending with her body crashing mercilessly onto the unforgiving rocky terrain below. The impact instantly inflicted her with multiple severe injuries, including broken bones in different parts of her body. An hour after Brown's fall, another group of canyon explorers stumbled upon her abandoned climbing gear. To them, it clearly indicated that a hiker had run into some trouble somewhere within the canyon. Taking the initiative, a member of the party was sent back to inform Zion's search and rescue team, who immediately mobilized their resources and expertise to locate and aid Brown. As the search for Brown intensified, the search and rescue team took decisive measures to ensure her swift rescue, even though it was initially unclear where she had fallen. They temporarily closed off several surrounding hiking routes vital for accessing the canyon, such as the Narrows, Mystery, and Orderville canyons. Even popular stops like the Temple of Sinawava shuttle stop and Riverside Walk were also closed off during the search period. A rescue helicopter was also dispatched to further facilitate the search. However, the canyon's sheer steepness and narrow confines prevented it from reaching Brown's location. After a few hours, medical personnel finally managed to reach Brown, who was lying on the ground, barely alive. They began administering initial treatments and preparation for moving her out of the canyon into the hospital. But sadly, this was a futile effort. Within moments of their arrival, she passed away, succumbing to the injuries she had sustained after her fall. Brown's body was later recovered from the canyon on Sunday evening and taken to the morgue. An investigation was opened to determine the exact cause of the accident, although foul play was not suspected. Following her death, Brown received many tributes from friends and other canyoneers who frequented Zion National Park. One person said she always brought a valued and skilled perspective to the limestone slots of the Grand Canyon and was a masterful practitioner in the art of canyoning. Another person remarked that she was dedicated to service and sharing her knowledge and love of the outdoors with others. In the summer of '67, Glacier National Park was a haven for adventure seekers, a sprawling wilderness waiting to be explored. Two young women, Julie Helgeson and Michelle Coombs, set out on separate trips, unaware of the dangers hidden behind the area's beautiful landscapes. Julie, an enthusiastic soul from Minnesota, had come to Glacier with dreams of exploring its beauty. With her companion, Roy Ducat, she set out on the Highline Trail, a path winding through towering peaks and valleys. Their destination was the Granite Park Chalet. Julie and Roy made camp for the night. The air was dry yet cold. The stars shimmered overhead, and all seemed peaceful in embracing nature's majesty. Little did they know there was danger in every corner of where they were. Meanwhile, Michelle, a California native, went on her adventure with 4 fellow park employees. Their destination was Trout Lake, a serene oasis framed by towering pines and mirrored waters. Laughter filled the air as they set up camp, their spirits high with the promise of a peaceful evening under the stars. But as darkness descended upon the wilderness, a primal force stirred. A grizzly bear, filled with hunger and driven by instinct, stalked through the night, its senses keen for the scent of food. In the stillness of the forest, it caught wind of Julie and Roy's campsite, and with a terrifying roar, it descended upon them. The attack was swift and merciless. Claws slashed through the air, teeth gnashed against flesh, and Julie's desperate cries pierced the night. Roy fought valiantly to protect his companion, but against the bear's power, he was powerless to save her. At the same time, Michelle and her companions faced a similar nightmare at Trout Lake. As they prepared their evening meal, laughter turned to screams as a shadow fell over their campsite, a sign of impending doom. With heart-pounding terror, they watched as a grizzly bear charged into their camp. Panic ensued as Michelle's companions scattered in all directions, leaving her alone to face the beast's wrath. In a desperate bid for survival, she fought bravely against the onslaught, but against the relentless fury of the bear, she stood no chance. In her final moments, her painful cries echoed through the night. As dawn broke over Glacier National Park, the true extent of the tragedy became apparent. Julie's lifeless body lay crumpled amidst the wreckage of the campsite, her dreams of adventure extinguished by the savage brutality of the bear that attacked her. Michelle's mutilated remains were also found. In the aftermath of the attacks, a relentless hunt for the culprit bears ensued, culminating in the tragic demise of 2 innocent creatures. But amidst the horror, a beacon of hope emerged. The park rallied behind a renewed commitment to safety, implementing sweeping reforms to protect visitors and wildlife. Glacier National Park underwent a profound transformation from stringent food storage policies to educational initiatives. The legacy of Julie Helgeson and Michelle Coons lives on in these measures, a tribute to lives lost but not forgotten. As the years passed, the wounds inflicted upon Glacier National Park began to heal, but the scars of that tragic night remain etched into the place forever. Today, visitors tread cautiously through its majestic terrain, mindful of the potential dangers. On a regular Monday afternoon, May 22, 2023, Athir Al-Qatani, a 28-year-old grad student from the University of Kansas, decided to visit Glacier National Park with her friends. She had just finished her first year of studies and wanted to celebrate by exploring the beauty of nature. Athir loved being outdoors, surrounded by trees, rivers, and mountains. It was a passion she had developed since childhood, growing up in Saudi Arabia. So when the opportunity arose to visit Glacier National Park, she eagerly seized it. Joined by her friends from Kansas, Athir embarked on a road trip adventure, excited to experience the wonders of one of America's most breathtaking national parks. As they arrived at Avalanche Creek, Athir was captivated by the sight of the rushing water formed from melted glaciers carving its way through the rough landscapes. Eager to get a closer look, Athir wandered off the designated trails, drawn to a rocky overhang overlooking the creek. She stood there, taking in the magnificent view, the sound of rushing water filling her ears. But then, in a split second, tragedy struck. Athir lost her footing and tumbled over the edge, plummeting into the icy waters below. Her friends, shocked and terrified, watched helplessly as she disappeared from view. In a panic, they called out to her, desperately hoping she would resurface unharmed. But there was no sign of Athir. The once serene atmosphere was filled with fear and confusion. Her friends frantically searched for her, their voices echoing through the canyon as they called out her name. Minutes felt like hours as they waited for any sign of their friend. And then suddenly, they spotted her struggling in the swift current, her body being carried downstream by the force of the water. They sprang into action without hesitation, wading into the creek to reach her. Risking their safety, Aether's friends fought against the powerful current, reaching out to grab hold of her. With sheer determination, they managed to pull her limp body from the water, their hearts pounding with fear and adrenaline. Laying Aether on the rocky shore, her friends frantically began performing CPR, desperately trying to revive her. They prayed for a miracle, refusing to accept the terrifying reality of what had just happened. Meanwhile, a passerby who had witnessed the incident rushed to call for help. Flathead County Dispatch received the frantic call, alerting park officials to the emergency unfolding at Avalanche Creek. Within minutes, National Park Service staff, an alert helicopter, and Three Rivers ambulance were on their way to the scene. But despite their best efforts, it was too late. As the emergency responders arrived, they found Aether's friends huddled around her lifeless body, their faces etched with sorrow and disbelief. Despite their efforts and attempts to save her, Aether had slipped away, leaving behind a trail of grief and unanswered questions. As news of the tragedy spread, shock and sadness rippled through the community. Aether's family in Lawrence, Kansas, were devastated by the news, struggling to come to terms with the sudden loss of their beloved daughter and sister. In the days that followed, law enforcement officials launched an investigation into the circumstances surrounding Aether's death. They combed through witness statements and examined the incident scene, searching for clues illuminating what had happened. Initial reports suggested no foul play, but as investigators delved deeper, they uncovered a troubling pattern. It wasn't the first time a visitor to Glacier National Park had met a tragic end. Water-related incidents, like the one that claimed Aether's life, were alarmingly common in the park, especially during the spring runoff season. As theories began to emerge about what might have led to Aether's fall, her friends and family were left struggling to accept the painful reality of her absence. They wondered if there was anything they could have done differently, if they could have prevented the tragedy that had befallen their beloved Aether. Months passed, but the pain of Aether's loss remained as raw as ever. Her friends and family struggled to come to terms with the fact that she was gone, her vibrant personality erased far too soon. And as they mourned her passing, they vowed to honor her memory by cherishing their shared moments and never taking life's precious moments for granted.
Juliana Kupska, just a teenager at 17, lived through a terrifying experience on Christmas Eve back in 1971. She was on LANSA Flight 508, a flight headed from Lima to Panguana, a trip she took with her mother Maria. Little did they know their trip would turn into a nightmare. The day started like any other, with excitement for the holiday season ahead. Julianne and her mother boarded the flight in Lima, eager to reach their destination in time for Christmas. Despite her father's concerns about the flight's safety, they decided to go ahead with their plans. As they settled into their seats on the plane, Julianne couldn't shake a feeling of unease. There were whispers among the passengers about thunderstorms and turbulence, making the atmosphere inside the cabin tense. Julianne and her mother were seated near the rear of the aircraft, watching nervously as dark clouds gathered outside the windows. The anticipation of the journey ahead was mixed with a sense of foreboding. Then, without warning, the plane hit severe turbulence. Lightning flashed, causing the passengers to feel frightened. The plane shook violently, causing panic to spread among those on board. Julianne clung to her mother, their hands tightly intertwined as the chaos unfolded around them. Despite the fear coursing through her veins, she found peace and calm in her mother's presence. Her words of reassurance seemed to be the only thing calming her down at that very moment. But the calmness turned into horror when disaster struck. A blinding flash of lightning lit up the sky as the plane plummeted from the sky, its wings engulfed in flames. Julianne felt her stomach lurch as the ground rushed up to meet them. The next thing she knew, Julianne was waking up amidst the wreckage of the plane, now deep within the Amazon rainforest. Her head throbbed with pain, and she struggled to make sense of her surroundings. The cabin lay in ruins around her, twisted metal and debris strewn everywhere. Despite her injuries, Julianne found herself still strapped to her seat, the only intact structure in the wreckage. She searched frantically for her mother, her heart pounding with fear as she realized she was alone. In the days that followed, Julianne faced a desperate struggle for survival. With no food, water, or shelter, she relied on her instincts and the survival skills she had learned from her parents, both renowned zoologists. She foraged for food, using her knowledge of the rainforest to find edible plants and fruits to sustain her dwindling strength. Each day was a battle against hunger, exhaustion, and the scorching heat of the jungle. As the days passed, Julianne clung to the hope that help would come. She tried to attract attention by shouting and waving makeshift flags, but her cries went unanswered. Meanwhile, search parties were combing the jungle in search of survivors. But the dense foliage and terrain made their task difficult, hampering their efforts to locate Julianne amidst the vast expanse of greenery. Despite the challenges she faced, Julianne refused to give up hope. She clung to the belief that her father would never stop looking for her, that he would find her no matter what. Then, on the 11th day of her ordeal, Julianne's prayers were answered. She stumbled upon a logging camp where she was discovered by local fishermen who provided her with much-needed assistance. Following her rescue, Julianne was reunited with her father and received medical attention for her injuries. Her remarkable survival story captured the world's attention, sparking discussions about aviation safety and wilderness survival. Now, Julianne is a biologist and is married. Her incredible tale of survival has inspired numerous artistic works, including books and films, that portray how she miraculously survived two life-threatening challenges: a plane crash and the perils of the Amazon rainforest.
A tale of mystery began to unfold in Wyoming, where vast landscapes grow in the embrace of nature. LaKayla Shea Putnick, a 14-year-old girl from Charleston, West Virginia, put herself in the middle of a dangerous journey that would capture the attention of those seeking answers. Yellowstone National Park, a world of awe-inspiring wonders, stood as a backdrop to Shea's peculiar adventure. The park, known for its geothermal wonders, majestic wildlife, and breathtaking landscapes, was the canvas for the unfolding story. Shea's story turned unexpectedly in the bubbling geysers and serene wilderness. Temporarily placed with a foster family in Wyoming, Shea's life took an unsettling twist on August 7, 2018. In the vast expanse of Yellowstone National Park, she made a decision that left her family and authorities concerned. Without a trace, she departed from her foster family, setting in motion a series of events that would baffle those attempting to make sense of her mysterious disappearance. The Kanawha County Sheriff's Office received an intriguing tip from a park visitor. A witness claimed to have seen Shea holding a sign, a cryptic message that hinted at her intentions. The sign boldly declared her desire to reach Denver. The motive behind Shea's journey remained shrouded in mystery, adding a layer of complexity to the unfolding narrative. No one knew why she wanted to go to Denver. Her foster family was also unaware of this visit. Days passed at average speed, and there was no clue of Shea. Neither the family nor authorities received any communication from the adventurous teenager. The wilderness of Yellowstone held its secrets, and Shea seemed to have become one with the park's enigmatic allure. As investigators delved into Shea's background, they found connections to distant lands: North Charleston, West Virginia, Fort Walton, Florida, Billings, Montana, and Denver. These connections painted a portrait of a teenager whose roots spanned across the vast American landscape. Each location held a piece of Shea's past, and the mystery deepened as the search expanded to encompass these diverse corners of the country. Why did Shea embark on this journey? What prompted a 14-year-old girl to go to Denver as her elusive destination? These questions raised concerns, echoing through the corridors of the sheriff's office and the minds of Shea's worried family members. Yellowstone National Park, known for its natural wonders, stood a silent witness of this secret. Amidst the geysers and mountains of Yellowstone, Search and rescue teams continued on a search to unravel the mystery. The picturesque landscapes, once a source of tranquility, now echoed with the urgency of a community searching for one of its own. Helicopters soared above, and foot searchers combed through the dense vegetation, hoping to find a clue leading them to Shay. Despite all efforts, she wasn't found. The reasons behind Shay's decision, the significance of her ties to different places, and the mystery of her destination remained unanswered, leaving those following the saga in suspense. However, years later, there was a Facebook post from the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office. The post shed light on Shay's return. According to the post, Shay returned several months ago. When, how, and with whom? These questions were still unanswered. In the expanse of Yellowstone, where high mountains whisper tales of the past, the story of Shay and her unclear disappearance and return unfolded like a suspenseful novel. A teenager's disappearance, a cryptic sign, and the vast landscapes of America intertwined to create a narrative that would be etched in the annals of Yellowstone's rich history.
In the lush embrace of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a group of eager high school students from Bearden High School embarked on an adventure on a crisp Friday morning in October 1976. Among them was Teresa Trenny Lynn Gibson, a spirited 16-year-old with an infectious enthusiasm for nature and a passion for landscape architecture. The day began with a sense of anticipation as the students boarded the school bus bound for Clingman's Dome, the highest peak in the Smokies. Trenny, with her long brown hair and sparkling green eyes, was filled with excitement at the prospect of exploring the majestic wilderness with her classmates. Little did she know that this excursion would mark the beginning of a mystery that would endure for decades. As the bus wound its way through the scenic mountain roads, Trenny couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at the beauty that surrounded her. The towering trees, the gentle murmur of streams, and the distant call of birds all seemed to beckon her deeper into the heart of the wilderness. Arriving at Clingman's Dome, the students disembarked and gathered around their teacher, Mr. Wayne Dunlap, who outlined their hiking route for the day. Their destination, Andrews Bald, a picturesque meadow nestled amidst the rugged terrain of the Smokies. Trenny listened intently, her imagination already racing ahead to the wonders that awaited them. The hike began in earnest with Trenny and her friend Robert Simpson eagerly leading the way. The trail meandered through dense forests and across babbling brooks, each step bringing them closer to their destination. Along the way, they laughed and joked, sharing stories and snacks as they immersed themselves in the beauty of their surroundings. As they neared Andrews Bald, the landscape opened up before them, revealing sweeping vistas of rolling hills and verdant valleys. Trenny's heart swelled with joy at the sight, her love for nature blossoming with each passing moment. She couldn't imagine a more perfect day. But then, as they reached Andrews Bald and settled down for lunch, a strange feeling began to creep over Trenny. A sense of unease washed over her, like a shadow passing over the sun. She tried to shake it off, attributing it to the unfamiliarity of being in such a remote wilderness. As the afternoon wore on, Trenny found herself growing restless, her earlier excitement giving way to a growing sense of dread. She glanced around nervously, feeling as though she were being watched by unseen eyes. Robert, sensing her discomfort, offered her his jacket in a gesture of kindness, but even its warmth couldn't chase away the chill that had settled over her soul. When it was time to begin the hike back to the bus, Trenny hesitated, her gaze lingering on the horizon as though searching for something she couldn't name. Robert, sensing her reluctance, urged her to stay with him a while longer, but Trenny insisted on pressing ahead alone, her steps quickening as though driven by some unseen force. And then, in the blink of an eye, she was gone. The students searched frantically for any sign of their missing classmate, calling out her name as they combed the area for clues. But Trenny had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a lingering sense of bewilderment and fear. As night fell and the search continued, Trenny's family waited anxiously for news, their hearts heavy with worry. Hope Gibson, Trenny's mother, clung to the faint hope that her daughter would soon be found safe and sound, but deep down she feared the worst. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but still there was no sign of Trenny. The once vibrant teenager had become a ghostly presence, haunting the memories of those who had known her and fueling rumors and speculation that echoed through the mountains like whispers on the wind. Decades passed, and still, the mystery of Trenny Lynn Gibson's disappearance remained unsolved. In the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, where the trees reach for the sky and the streams sing their ancient songs, there lived a woman named Thelma Pauline Melton. But to her friends and those who knew her well, she was simply Polly, a name that seemed to dance on the breeze, a name that carried with it the echoes of laughter and joy. Polly was no stranger to the mountains. For over 2 decades, she had called these majestic peaks her home away from home, her sanctuary amidst the chaos of the world. Each year, when the leaves turned to gold and the air grew crisp with the promise of autumn, Polly would pack her bags and make the journey to the Deep Creek campground, nestled at the base of the North Carolina side of the park. There, amidst the rustling leaves and the gentle murmur of the creek, Polly would find solace, a respite from the cares of the world, a chance to reconnect with the wilderness that stirred her soul. It was a ritual she cherished, a tradition passed down through the years like a treasured heirloom. But Polly was not alone in her love for the mountains. Accompanying her on her annual pilgrimage were her friends, Red and Trula, 2 kindred spirits bound together by a love for adventure and a thirst for discovery. Together, the trio would set out to explore the trails that crisscrossed the landscape, their laughter ringing out like the call of the wild. On that fateful Friday in September 1981, as the sun dipped low on the horizon and the shadows grew long, Polly and her friends embarked on their latest adventure, a hike along the Deep Creek Trail, a path well-trodden yet filled with the promise of new discoveries. As they walked, the air was alive with the scent of pine and the chatter of wildlife. The forest was alive with the hum of life. Polly's heart beat with excitement, her steps quickening with each passing moment as she drank in the beauty of her surroundings. For her, the mountains were more than just a place. They were a part of her, woven into the very fabric of her being. And so, with each step, Polly felt herself drawn deeper into the heart of the wilderness, her spirit soaring on the wings of freedom. She moved with a grace born of familiarity, her feet finding purchase on the rocky trail as if guided by some unseen hand. As they walked, Polly's companions marveled at her ease, her laughter ringing out like the call of a bird in flight. For Red and Trula, who had known Polly for many years, her joy was a sight to behold, a reminder of the magic that lay waiting in the embrace of the mountains. But amidst the laughter and the camaraderie, there lurked a shadow, a sense of unease that whispered through the trees like a ghost in the night. It was a feeling that Polly could not shake, a sense that something lurked just beyond the edge of her vision, waiting to pounce. Yet still she pressed on, her curiosity outweighing her fear, her spirit undaunted by the mysteries that lay ahead. For Polly, the mountains held no secrets too dark, no challenges too great. She moved with a confidence born of years spent wandering the trails, her footsteps echoing through the silent woods like a promise of things to come. And then, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows lengthened, Polly quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest like the beat of a drum. She felt a pull, a tug at the edges of her consciousness that urged her onward toward some unknown destination. With each step, she felt the weight of the world fall away, her senses sharpening as if honed by some unseen force. She moved with purpose, her feet carrying her forward with a determination that bordered on desperation. And then, as suddenly as a bolt of lightning rends the sky, Polly vanished from sight, disappearing over a rise in the trail like a wisp of smoke carried away by the wind. Red and Trula called out to her, their voices swallowed by the vast expanse of the forest, but there was no answer, only the hollow echo of their own fear. In the hours that followed, panic gripped the hearts of Polly's companions, spreading like wildfire through the close-knit community that called these mountains home. Park rangers and volunteers alike scoured the wilderness in search of their missing friend, their footsteps echoing through the silent woods like a desperate plea for answers. But Polly remained elusive, her whereabouts shrouded in mystery, her fate a riddle yet unsolved. In the days that followed, whispers of speculation drifted through the air like the scent of rain on the wind. Was Polly kidnapped, whisked away by unseen hands into the depths of the unknown? Did she succumb to the perils of the wilderness, lost amidst the labyrinth of trees and shadows? Or, as some whispered in hushed tones, did she orchestrate her own disappearance? a vanishing act fueled by a longing for freedom, a desire to escape the burdens of her past. Months turned into years, the seasons shifting like the sands of time. But still, Polly's fate remained a mystery, a puzzle with no solution, a story with no end. Yet amidst the uncertainty, one thing remained clear. Polly's spirit lingered on, a whisper in the wind, a shadow in the trees, a reminder of the mysteries that lurk within the heart of the wilderness.
In the large areas of the Grand Canyon, where the majestic Colorado River has carved its way through the Arizona landscape for millions of years, the year 1957 marked the mysterious disappearance of a young woman named Mary Margaret Begay. At the tender age of 20, Mary left the comfort of her home in Loop to work at the Bright Angel Lodge, a popular stop for visitors of the Grand Canyon National Park. Little did she know that her new beginning would soon turn into an enigma that would baffle investigators for decades. Mary's daily routine at the park was uneventful until one fateful day in August, when she decided to enjoy a night out with 3 of her friends. They set out from their employee housing, walking to the now demolished Grand Canyon Inn, their hearts light and spirits high, eager for some relaxation after days of hard work. The evening was filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses as they indulged in the pleasure of each other's company. However, as the night wore on, Mary made a decision that would forever alter the course of her life. She was last seen getting into a vehicle with 2 men, strangers to her friends, described only as being of Hopi descent. From that moment on, Mary Margaret Begay vanished into the night, leaving behind nothing but questions and the haunting silence of her absence. The disappearance of Mary was not immediately alarming to the authorities or her employer. In a time when communication was not as instant as it is today, it was not uncommon for individuals to go off the grid for short periods of time. However, as days turned into weeks without any sign of Mary, concern began to mount. Her employer, having no tolerance for unexplained absences, terminated her position and packed away her belongings, an act that now seems cold in the light of her mysterious absence. It was only when Mary's family came to visit, expecting to find her thriving in her new environment, that the alarm was raised. They were met with the shocking reality that Mary was gone, her whereabouts unknown. The family reported her missing to the Navajo authorities, but the bureaucratic gears turned slowly, and it was not until a year later that the Coconino County Sheriff's Office became aware of Mary's case. The investigation into Mary's disappearance was complicated from the start. In October 1958, a grim discovery of skeletal remains near the Grand Canyon sparked hope that Mary might be found. However, this hope was quickly dashed when the remains were identified as belonging to a younger, non-Native American girl, dubbed Little Miss X, whose case also went cold. As the years passed, various leads and theories emerged, including speculation that Mary had chosen to start a new life away from her family in Los Angeles or Oregon. Friends and acquaintances whispered rumors of marriage and children, but every lead turned into a dead end. The investigator on Mary's case, Joe Sumner, a retired National Park Service criminal investigator, expressed his skepticism about these theories, noting Mary's close relationship with her family and the lack of any evidence to suggest she was still alive. The case of Mary Margaret Begay became a haunting presence in the annals of the Coconino County Sheriff's Office's Cold Case Unit. More than 50 years later, Mary's family members passed away, carrying the burden of her unresolved disappearance. Despite advancements in forensic science, including the collection of DNA samples from Mary's surviving sister, in an attempt to find a match, the mystery remained unsolved. The search for Mary's remains and the quest for answers continued, with the hope that one day closure could be provided to her surviving relatives. In the grand scheme of things, Mary's story is a poignant reminder of the countless individuals who disappear without a trace, leaving behind families and communities grappling with endless questions. It underscores the challenges faced by law enforcement in solving cold cases and the importance of never giving up hope. As the narrative of Mary Margaret Begay unfolds, it weaves a tale of mystery, loss, and the relentless search for truth, set against the backdrop of one of America's most breathtaking natural wonders. In the tranquil city of Oakley, California, a community was shaken by the disappearance of a young girl, Araya Morning. At just 17 years old, Araya vanished into the thin air of a cool February night, setting off a series of events that would captivate and concern her community. This tale unfolds in a quiet neighborhood where the streets, usually bustling with the sounds of everyday life, grew silent in the wake of her absence. Araya, a petite girl with a presence much larger than her 5'1" stature, was known for her vibrant personality and unmistakable laugh. Her black hair and brown eyes were familiar and comforting sights to those who knew her well. On the night of February 15, 2024, she was last seen wearing a dark leather jacket and black leggings, attire that spoke to her unique style and spirit. The location of her last sighting, near the crossroads of Rocky Mountain Way and Grand Canyon Circle, would soon become the focal point of a desperate search. The Oakley Police Department, upon learning of Araya's disappearance, acted swiftly to issue an Amber Alert, a call to action that underscored the urgency of finding her. This alert, spreading through Alameda and Contra Costa counties, was a beacon to community vigilance, prompting residents to keep their eyes peeled for any sign of the missing teen. Araya's sudden departure from her home on the 400 block of Rocky Mountain Way was way out of character, even though she had a history of brief, unannounced departures. Her parents, gripped by a mixture of hope and fear, initially hesitated to involve the police, clinging to the belief that Araya would return just as suddenly as she had left. However, as hours turned into days without a word from their daughter, they realized this time was different. The community's response was immediate and heartwarming. Messages of hope and prayers flooded social media, with residents and strangers alike expressing their concern and wishing for Araya's safe return. As the Oakley Police Department delved deeper into the investigation, the absence of clear leads or sightings of Araya post-disappearance added layers of complexity to the case. Yet the resolve of both the officers and the community remained unshaken. Tip lines buzzed with potential sightings and information, each call serving as a thread in the larger tapestry of the search effort. The narrative of Araya Morning's disappearance is a story of a community united by concern and hope. It is a reminder of the fragility of safety and strength found in collective action. As the search continues, the spirit of Oakley shines brightly, a beacon of hope in the quest to bring Araya home. This story, marked by the absence of its protagonist, is not just about a missing teenager. It's a testament to the resilience of a community faced with uncertainty. With a blend of humor to lighten the heartache, the tale weaves through the efforts to find Araya, highlighting the peculiarities of human nature and the bonds that tie a community together in times of crisis. The investigation into Araya Morning's whereabouts remains ongoing, a puzzle yet to be solved. As detectives piece together the events of that February night, the community of Oakley holds its breath, awaiting the moment when Araya walks back through her door into the embrace of a family and a community that has missed her dearly. The story of Araya Morning is far from over, but it serves as a poignant reminder of the strength found in hope and the power of a community that refuses to give up.
What was supposed to be a fun girls' trip in the heart of nature turned into an absolute nightmare for 42-year-old Carol Sund, her 15-year-old daughter Julie, and 16-year-old Silvina Peloso. It was on February 12, 1999, that the three women left for a 4-day vacation near Yosemite National Park. Carol, Julie, and Silvina left their home in Eureka, California, unafraid and oblivious to what was to come. We can only guess at the excitement the three women must have felt as they boarded their flight to San Francisco. Silvina was an exchange student from Argentina. She and Julie had become friends, and the Sunds were very happy to host her. Once they landed, Carol rented a red 1999 Pontiac Grand Prix. They had a lot to do and see, and only 4 days before they were supposed to meet Jens, Carol's husband, back at the San Francisco airport and accompany him on a business trip to Arizona. The women's first stop was Stockton, California. There, Julie took part in a cheerleading contest. After Julie's contest, the three women hit the road again. They arrived in El Portal, California on February 14th. They planned to stay there for a few days to explore Yosemite National Park. They got a room at Cedar Lodge, a resort located only 8 miles away from the park's entrance. The women spent the following day, February 15th, hiking on one of the park's many trails. It was there in the middle of nature that Carol, Julie, and Silvina were safest. Returning to Cedar Lodge for the night turned out to be an awful, unexpected mistake. The women left the park at some point during the evening. They were tired and wanted to unwind before getting some sleep. They had to return the rented car the next day and then meet Jens, Carol's husband, at the San Francisco airport. But in the hands of destiny, their plans were as good as nothing. Once they got back to Cedar Lodge, the group asked for some videos from the lodge's service desk. It was the last time anyone ever saw them alive. What transpired was a horrendous crime that shook America and marred national park history. On February 16th, Jens Sund was astounded to see that Carol and the girls didn't show up at the airport the way they had agreed. Jens was worried enough to contact the police. Then the facts got muddier. It seemed that checkout had been made in advance. The keys were left inside the room and nothing was amiss. But there was no trace of the women, nor of the car Carol had rented. To make matters worse, the rental car company confirmed Carol had never returned the Pontiac. Local police, rangers, volunteers, family, and friends all came together to comb through the park in a desperate attempt to find the women. 2 weeks later, Carol's wallet inexplicably turned up in Modesto intact. Were they even alive? At this point, the situation looked dire. On March 18, 1999, Jens Sund's worst fears became reality. The red 1999 Pontiac was found, tucked away off Highway 108, in the Stanislaus Forest region, a region that locals used as a dumping ground. The car was burned out. Inside the car, authorities made a gruesome discovery: 2 charred bodies which were later identified as Carol Sund and Silvina Peloso. At this point, the FBI got involved. A week later, authorities received a note indicating the location of Julie's body. "We had fun with this one," the note cruelly said. Julie Sund's body was discovered on March 25th near Lake Pedro, in Tuolumne County. The body was severely decomposed, but the cause of death was clear. Julie's throat had been slashed. It took another crime for the killer to be caught. Joey Ruth Armstrong was gruesomely murdered near her cabin. The day before, some witnesses had spotted a blue car parked near the woman's cabin. Police used this information to find Joey's killer, and were stunned to find that all clues pointed to Carrie Stainer, a 37-year-old handyman at the Cedar Lodge Motel, who they had previously interviewed in connection to the Sund and Palazzo murders. This time, Stainer confessed. On the evening of February 15th, he held Carol, Julie, and Silvina at gunpoint. He promised he wouldn't hurt them if only they cooperated. He lied. He bound and gagged the women, strangled and shot Carol, then sexually assaulted and killed Silvina Peloso, too. He then brought Julie to the lake, where he sexually assaulted her and then cut her throat. Although Stainer pleaded not guilty to the murders of the Sunds and Peloso, claiming insanity, the judge decided to sentence him to death 3 times, once for each murder. Carrie Stainer is now 62 years old and still alive. It was more than 100 years ago when the final 400-foot ascent of Half Dome, the iconic rock formation in Yosemite National Park, was fitted with cables. Standing at 8,800 feet above sea level, Half Dome has fascinated nature lovers and hikers for the longest time, despite the trickier parts of the hike. The reward, most people say, it's worth the effort. This was probably what Danielle Burnett believed, too. The 29-year-old woman loved nature and was particularly fond of hikes, especially when they provided wonderful views. And what better place for a striking view than Yosemite? Burnett, who was originally from Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and worked as a social media manager at Havasu Springs Resort in Parker, Arizona, arrived at the park on September 5, 2019. She had previously gotten a lottery-distributed permit to climb to the top of Half Dome, a necessity for all those who wish to venture on the hike. The Half Dome Trail traverses some 17 miles and gains about 4,800 feet in elevation. In other words, it's not a walk in the park. In fact, the last portion of the trail is particularly strenuous. That's why it was fitted with cables back in 1919. Hikers are advised to be cautious and avoid the trail if they're unprepared or out of shape. Even the most experienced hikers could face problems out there, with altitude sickness and changing weather being possible obstacles. But this wasn't Danielle Burnett's first time out on a hike. She was all right for the most part of the hike, that is, until she reached the strenuous and famous cable route. Sean Slimp and his group were also on the cable route when they heard a commotion above. When he looked up, Slimp saw Danielle Burnett struggling. A light sprinkle had started, which seemed to terrify Burnett. In her panic, Burnett decided getting to the top wasn't worth it. She needed to turn around even though her group continued on. Slimp watched as Burnett's shoes slipped on the rock. Then the woman fell hard. In an instant, she lost her grip on the cable and started sliding down. Slimp and one of his friends sprang into action, trying to catch Burnett. It was of no use. She was simply too far from their reach. Slimp watched in horror as Danielle Burnett slipped past. Her screams pierced the air. Then she tumbled more than 500 feet down the rocky surface. The rest of the hikers had to be evacuated so a helicopter could fly in. When park rangers arrived on the scene, Danielle Burnett was already dead. Her family was devastated. Her sister, Nicole Burnett, posted a tribute on Facebook, asking people to allow her family to grieve in privacy. "It's with a broken heart to inform you all that our beautiful Danielle left us yesterday doing something she loved so much," Nicole's post also said. According to the Mercury News, Danielle Burnett was at least the 12th person since 1995 whose life was claimed by Half Dome in Yosemite National Park. In the gritty underbelly of their decades-long friendship, Chris Lee and Vita Smith shared a complex relationship intertwined with high-stakes gambling and illicit activities. Their shared passion for blackjack card counting led them to casinos worldwide, forming a bond that transcended the conventional norms of friendship. However, as the wheels of time turned, the dynamics between Lee and Smith took a dark turn. The fateful encounter unfolded in a dimly lit parking lot outside a Northeast coffee shop, shrouded in desperation and betrayal. Driven by the fear of losing the $10,000 he had just handed Smith, Lee was entangled in a struggle that would forever alter the course of their intertwined lives. Gripping her neck in a frantic attempt to thwart her escape, Lee's desperate actions inadvertently transformed into a tragic demise. The silent observer, a Nissan Rogue, bore witness to the haunting scene, its presence adding an eerie backdrop to the unfolding tragedy. This gripping narrative of betrayal, financial intrigue, and a desperate struggle in the shadowy corners of a parking lot paints a poignant picture of the final moments between Chris Lee and Vita Smith. As the layers of their complex relationship unraveled, the dimly lit space became the stage for a chilling tragedy, leaving echoes of remorse and anguish in its wake. Nearly 3 years later, Banff National Park held the silent secret of Vita Smith's resting place. Inadvertently revealed by her killer, Chris Lee, the details of her demise emerged during a Calgary jury trial. Lee's conviction for manslaughter echoed through the courtroom. Still, the discovery of Smith's remains in the mountainous terrain east of the Banff townsite remained mysterious. As winter conditions hampered the initial search, the location of Smith's tarped body eluded investigators. Following Lee's conviction, he guided homicide detectives to the mountains where he claimed to have left her. A snowstorm hindered the search, leaving the victim's whereabouts uncertain. Returning weeks later, detectives combed the rest stop off the eastbound Trans-Canada Highway, unraveling the grim truth. Smith's remains, concealed near the highway, added a chilling chapter to the already unsettling narrative. Yet police remained tight-lipped on whether Lee's revelations directly led to the discovery. The question haunting the trial, "Where is she?" lingered, posed by prosecutor Shane Parker. Lee's crime, compounded by hiding Smith's body, became a pivotal factor in the courtroom drama. The victim's children spoke of the anguish, the denial of dignity, and the haunting reality that their mother's body had been discarded. In the aftermath of the chilling discovery, the wheels of justice turned. Less than 2 weeks after Smith was reported missing, Lee faced charges. The once inseparable gambling partners, Lee and Smith, became entangled in a legal web. Their decades-long friendship, built on blackjack card counting and casino travels, is now a tragic tale of betrayal and murder. As Lee testified, the plot unfolded. A meeting, a deal gone awry, and an accidental chokehold leading to Smith's untimely demise. Lee, haunted by guilt, confessed to driving west after the murder, leaving Smith's tarped body in the rugged terrain near Banff or Canmore. During Lee's sentencing hearing, the courtroom echoed with the voices of Smith's children, expressing the torment of not knowing their mother's final resting place. The emotional impact resonated as they accused Lee of discarding her body callously, denying her dignity and a proper farewell. The Calgary courtroom, witness to the unfolding tragedy, rendered its judgment. Lee, convicted of manslaughter, faced the consequences of his actions. As the story reached its sad conclusion, the lingering question remained: how could a friendship built on shared passions end in such a gruesome betrayal? It was about 9:20 in the morning, and Clayton McMartin was aware that he had some weather ahead of him, something any pilot knows could potentially mean trouble. Clayton wasn't the only one aboard the Beechcraft Bonanza B-36. His wife, Melissa, was with him. They were flying to Washington, where they planned to meet their beloved baby grandson and enjoy some quality family time before the hunting season began. This would be Clayton's first moose hunt, an occasion that excited them both. However, the tricky weather and the high terrain of Mount Leaper and Wrangell, St. Elias National Park and Preserve, made their flight trickier than expected. On the morning of August 27, 2023, 59-year-old Clayton McMartin and his wife, 58-year-old Melissa McMartin, woke up ready to embark on the journey. Their airplane departed from Snowshoe Lake Airport in Glenallen, Alaska, at 8:50. Their destination was Ketchikan, Alaska, where they would make a first stop. Clayton and Melissa got married in 1986. They had 3 children. They were the kind of people who emanated joy. They loved their life and their adventures, which often took them beyond their wildest dreams. Perhaps that's why the couple had a deep admiration for Alaska, too. They appreciated the last frontier and all that it had to offer. In the past, Clayton and Melissa had spent 3 summers in Alaska, fishing, sightseeing, or simply spending time together. But no matter how much time they spent there, the couple kept marveling at how different Alaska was from their own home in Roanoke, Texas. Soon after they took off, Clayton, who piloted the aircraft, realized that high terrain caused radar contact and radio communications to be intermittent. At about 9:15 that morning, he told air traffic controllers that he was flying under Visual Flight Rules conditions, or VFR. VFR is a set of regulations under which a pilot operates an aircraft in weather conditions generally clear enough to allow the pilot to see where the aircraft is going. The McMartins were flying at an altitude of 12,500 feet. A controller with the Anchorage Air Route Traffic Control Center asked Clayton if he could climb higher. The man confirmed and told the controller he would climb to 13,500 feet. At 9:20, Clayton acknowledged he had some weather ahead of him. But according to the controller, the weather wasn't the only possible obstacle ahead. The terrain was also getting higher, and as such, Clayton's Bonanza needed to climb higher still. Clayton knew this wouldn't be a problem. His aircraft was well equipped. They had oxygen on board and the airplane was turbocharged, which meant it was suitable for higher altitudes. After climbing to 14,000 feet at about 9:30, Clayton got a heads up from the controller. All contact and monitoring would be lost for 10 minutes due to the weather conditions and altitude. Minutes later, when the controller asked Clayton to turn 20 degrees to avoid higher terrain, there was no response. Another pilot was asked to relay the message and Clayton answered. Once contact was re-established with the controller, McMartin asked to climb higher, to an altitude of 15,000 feet. The controller approved the request. 5 minutes later, the McMartin's plane was rapidly descending at 11,000 feet. Nobody answered the controller's frantic questions. The final radar target was at 8,875 feet. The next day, on August 28th, the wreckage was located in a heavily glaciated area with deep crevasses north of Mount Leaper, in the southern part of Wrangell, St. Elias National Park and Preserve, some 18 miles inland from Cape Yakataga, Alaska. But rescuers couldn't reach the area. The unpredictability of the weather, combined with the tricky terrain, prevented any form of rescue. On September 2nd, the National Park Service announced that responders' efforts had shifted from rescue to recovery. Chief Clint Johnson of the Alaska branch of the National Transportation Safety Board expressed his doubt about the likelihood of survival given the remote crash site and the weather conditions. A few days later, a park ranger managed to fly over the area during a break in the weather. What he saw further confirmed Johnson's suspicions. A large portion of the plane was located in a snow crater, with other plane fragments deeply embedded in a highly crevassed part of the Yahtzee Glacier, where snow continually accumulates. The wreckage was declared permanently inaccessible, and Wrangell St. Elias officials called off all recovery efforts.
At the end of autumn in 2001, Louise Chaput, a 52-year-old psychologist from Sherbrooke, Quebec, set off on a solo hiking adventure to the White Mountains, an area famous for its tough landscape and harsh weather. Louise, a skilled and enthusiastic hiker, intended to spend the weekend discovering the stunning scenery of the Presidential Range, a place she had previously frequented and loved for its beauty. It was clear to those close to Louise that she had a strong interest in nature and outdoor activities. Described as a kind person who helped others and had a great sense of humor, Louise found comfort and happiness in the peacefulness of the wilderness. Even with her busy schedule as a family and marital psychologist, Louise always found a way to prioritize her favorite outdoor activities. In the afternoon of Thursday, November 15, 2001, Louise reached the Pinkham Notch Visitor Center in New Hampshire, prepared to start her hiking journey alone. Excited to move around after the long car journey, she took a brief walk, leaving her silver Ford Focus estate car parked in the parking area. Witnesses reported that Louise asked about a suitable path for a short trip. The Lost Pond Trail across the street was suggested by a staff member at the visitor center. Louise, showing her appreciation, went toward the trail, expecting to be back before evening. Time went by, but Louise did not come back to her lodge as she had intended. Worried about her safety, her family informed the authorities that she was missing. A search and rescue operation took place with the participation of various agencies and volunteers. In spite of the difficult conditions caused by severe weather and rough terrain, search teams tirelessly combed the area, eager to uncover any sign of the lost hiker. Louise's car was found abandoned at the Glen Falls parking area, near the trailhead where she began her hike. Back then, nobody knew it would be the last time she'd be seen alive. The grim finding increased concerns about her well-being and escalated the search endeavors. But it wasn't until the 22nd of November, the day of Thanksgiving, that the search efforts would bear fruit. While hiking the Glen Boulder Trail near Mount Washington, hikers came across a haunting scene, the dead body of Louise Chaput. Her body showed several stab wounds, clear evidence of her brutal murder. The gruesome discovery caused a stir in the community and left investigators scrambling to solve the mystery of Louise's murder. Her demise sparked concerns and speculation about who the killer could be due to the unclear circumstances. Even with extensive work by the authorities, the situation continued to be shrouded in mystery. Investigators went through evidence, spoke with witnesses, and followed leads, yet the mysterious culprit continued to evade capture. One prevailing theory proposed that theft could be a potential reason. Louise's blue Canuck sleeping bag and backpack were not found at the location, suggesting that she may have had a confrontation with her attacker. Nevertheless, the pilfered goods had minimal inherent worth, causing some to doubt the reasoning behind the theft. Additionally, the killer's behavior following the murder perplexed investigators even more. Notably, the perpetrators did not steal Louise's car or use her credit or bank cards, indicating that their main goal may not have been financial profit. As the investigation continued, officials felt increasing pressure to solve the case and provide justice for Louise and her bereaved family members. Nevertheless, even with their exhaustive efforts, the trail went cold, and the killer continued to evade identification. In the years after, the unresolved homicide of Louise Chaput remained a haunting presence over the White Mountains, reminding people of the perils hidden in the area's picturesque landscapes. Even with time passing, the memory of Louise's tragic fate remains. serving as a reminder of how fragile life is and the ongoing search for truth and justice. However, despite the ongoing doubts and questions, a pressing question remains. Who was accountable for the tragic murder of Louise Chaput, and will she ever receive justice?
On a brisk April morning in 1993, Donna Spangler, a 58-year-old fitness instructor from Durango, Colorado, stood with her husband, Robert M. Spangler, on a steep trail in Grand Canyon National Park. The air was crisp and their anticipation hung in the air. Little did Donna know this expedition would be her last. Donna and Robert's relationship showed signs of strain for some time. Despite being together for 3 years, their marriage was marred by disagreement and discontent. They met in April 1989, exactly 4 years before Donna's tragic demise. The following year, they exchanged vows, but their marriage was far from perfect. Their lack of shared interest became increasingly apparent as time went on. Donna, a fitness and health lover, spent her days teaching aerobics at the Durango Health Club. Meanwhile, a country music DJ, Robert, found peace in the great outdoors, often going on solo hiking trips to clear his mind. The spring of 1993 brought a glimmer of hope as the couple planned to hike the Grand Canyon together. It seemed like an opportunity to reconnect and rediscover the bond that had brought them together in the first place. With eagerness in their hearts, they set out for their adventure. Arriving at the Grand Canyon, Robert chose the Grand View Trail for their hike. It was a popular route offering breathtaking views and challenging terrain. Horseshoe Mesa, their intended destination, lay approximately 2,600 feet below the rim. Excitement coursed through Donna as they began their descent. Donna couldn't shake the unease that had settled in her gut as they hiked. She wasn't an experienced hiker, and the rugged land of the trail made her nervous. Still, she pressed on, wanting to make the most of their time together. Their journey led them to a secluded spot near the Last Chance Mine, where they decided to camp for the night. It was a moment of peace and tranquility despite the chaos of their troubled relationship. But the calm was shattered the following day when tragedy struck. In a moment of madness, Robert made a decision that would change their lives forever. Standing face to face with Donna on the trail, he succumbed to his darkest impulses and pushed her over the edge. The world seemed to stand still as Donna tumbled down the cliffside, her screams slowly getting lost in the wind as she fell further down. In an instant, she was gone. Shock and disbelief washed over Robert as he realized what he had done. Frantically, he scrambled down the trail to where Donna's lifeless body lay, her injuries too severe to comprehend. Panic gripped him as he struggled to come to terms with the enormity of his actions. He knew there would be no turning back from this moment, no way to undo the irreparable damage he had caused. In a daze, Robert went to the National Park Service backcountry office, his mind reeling with guilt and regret. He recounted a fabricated tale of Donna's accidental fall, desperate to evade the consequences of his heinous crime. But the truth would not stay hidden for long. Rangers soon discovered discrepancies in Robert's story, leading them to suspect foul play. As they delved deeper into the circumstances surrounding Donna's death, a chilling pattern began to emerge. It seemed that Robert M. Spangler was not the loving husband he appeared to be. In a shocking turn of events, Robert confessed to not only Donna's murder, but also to the deaths of his first wife, Nancy, and their 2 children, Susan and David, nearly 15 years earlier. His confession shocked people, leaving friends and family reeling from the revelation of his dark past. As the details of Robert's crimes came to light, the community struggled to reconcile the image of the man they thought they knew with the cold-blooded killer he had become. His actions shattered lives and left behind a trail of devastation that would haunt those who knew him for years to come. In the end, justice was served, but the scars left by Robert's actions would never fully heal. Donna Spangler, a beloved mother, grandmother, and friend, was gone, her life cut short by the very person who had sworn to love and protect her. What if Donna had listened to her instincts and refused to accompany Robert on their ill-fated hike? Would she still be alive today and still be with him? Regardless of all these questions, the truth remained the same, and that Donna's death was unfair. Garrett Bonkowski and Jessica Bartz were just your average couple, filled with hopes and dreams for the future. They hailed from Peoria, Arizona, and had been planning a big move to Jessica's hometown in Iowa. It was a chance for them to start fresh, explore new opportunities, and build a life together in a place filled with memories from Jessica's childhood. Before they hit the road, Garrett and Jessica spent weeks packing their belongings, sorting through old mementos and saying goodbyes to friends and family. There was an excitement in the air, a sense of anticipation for the adventures ahead. They mapped out their route, planned their stops, and packed their car with everything they would need for the trip. As they drove through the vast expanse of the American Midwest, Garrett and Jessica shared updates and photos of their travels on social media. They gazed upon the towering skyscrapers of Chicago, the Great Plains rolling hills, and the Rocky Mountains' majestic beauty. Each new sight was a reminder of the vastness and diversity of their country, and they felt grateful to be experiencing it together. However, as they moved from home, communication between Garrett and Jessica became less frequent. Text messages went unanswered, phone calls went straight to voicemail, and their social media accounts fell silent. At first, their friends and family chalked it up to spotty cell service or busy schedules, but as days turned into weeks, concern began to grow. Sally Liddicoat, a close friend of Jessica's, was the first to raise the alarm. She had been eagerly following Garrett and Jessica's trip online, but she knew something needed to be fixed when she noticed that they hadn't posted anything in over a week. She contacted Jessica's family, but no one had heard from her or Garrett since they had left Arizona. In Iowa, Jessica's family anxiously awaited their arrival. They had been counting down the days until Garrett and Jessica would pull into their driveway, but their excitement turned to worry as the days passed with no sign of them. Jessica's father, Brian Bartz, contacted the authorities to report his daughter and her boyfriend missing, and the search for Garrett and Jessica began in earnest. Investigators retraced Garrett and Jessica's planned route, scouring surveillance footage, interviewing witnesses, and cross-referencing credit card activity. They searched rest stops, gas stations, and roadside attractions, hoping for any clue leading them to the missing couple. But as the days stretched into months, their efforts yielded little results. Then, just when hope began to fade away, a breakthrough came in the form of a hiker's discovery in the Grand Canyon. The bodies of Garrett and Jessica were found near a remote trail, their car parked nearby, abandoned and forgotten. It was a tragic end to a journey that had begun with so much promise, shocking their communities back home. The news of Garrett and Jessica's disappearance and subsequent death spread quickly, sparking an outpouring of grief and disbelief from friends, family, and strangers alike. Memorials were held, candles were lit, and tributes poured in. But amid the mourning, there were questions about what had happened to Garrett and Jessica, and why their journey had ended in such tragedy. One theory suggested that Garrett and Jessica had simply gotten lost, taken a wrong turn, and ended up in the remote wilderness of the Grand Canyon. However, this explanation seemed unlikely, given that Garrett and Jessica were experienced travelers who had meticulously planned their route before setting out. Another theory floated by authorities was that foul play may have been involved. The remote location of Garrett and Jessica's remains, coupled with the lack of any obvious signs of an accident or natural disaster, led investigators to believe that someone may have been responsible for their disappearance and death. But without any concrete evidence or suspects, this theory remained just that, a theory. As the investigation into Garrett and Jessica's disappearance continued, their families grappled with the harsh reality of their loss. They mourned the lives cut short, the dreams left unfulfilled, and the unanswered questions that would haunt them for years. Ultimately, the story of Garrett Bonkowski and Jessica Bartz was an example of how even the best-laid plans could go awry, and that tragedy can strike when we least expect it. But amid the sadness and uncertainty, there was hope that Garrett and Jessica would be remembered, not for how they died, but for how they lived and for the love and laughter they brought into the world.
In August 2022, Jatal Agnahatri decided to visit Zion National Park with two of her friends for a hiking trip in the Narrows. She loves spending her time outdoors, but could not do it frequently due to her hectic life as a promising young PhD researcher at the University of Arizona Department of Hydrology and Atmospheric Sciences. All things considered, she saw the hiking trip as a time to relax from the stress of academia before starting the fall semester at the University of Arizona. However, just as Jital and her friends were gearing up to start their hike, Zion Park officials issued several flash flood warnings. Given that hiking through the Narrows involved wading through the virgin riverbed at certain points, the prospect of being caught in the river during a flash flood was potentially life-threatening. Regardless, Jital decided to go on the hike as planned. Meanwhile, her friends chose the wiser option of staying back, and they all planned to meet up at the visitor center's parking lot later in the evening. During the hike, the flash flood struck suddenly, turning the dry washes and smooth rock surfaces of the Narrows into a dangerous river of fast-moving water and debris in just minutes. Sadly, Jital, who reportedly couldn't swim, was swept away by the flood, along with a group of other hikers. Shortly after the flash flood, park rangers were informed about hikers being swept away. They promptly organized a rescue team to assist them. One injured hiker was discovered downstream, several hundred yards away on the Virgin River, and was immediately transported to the hospital. Several other hikers found themselves stranded on elevated ground surrounded by water, but were safely escorted to dry land once the water levels went back. The rangers then interviewed the park visitors, asking if anyone was missing from their group. When no one offered information about a missing person, they believed everyone had been located. However, hours later, Jital was reported missing, likely by her friends, when she failed to appear. This triggered an immediate search effort involving a team of swiftwater-trained rescuers, search dogs, and over 170 emergency responders. On the first day of the search, Jital remained unaccounted for. As the search efforts continued, Jital's family, who had traveled to assist in the search, anxiously awaited any updates regarding her whereabouts. Her brother even spoke with news outlets, expressing his shock at the suddenness of the flash floods and lamenting the family's anguish over not knowing what Jital was experiencing. On that same day, video footage circulated by a news outlet showed at least 2 individuals desperately clinging to broken-off parts of fallen trees as the flash flood carried them away. One of the individuals looked like Jital, although the video could not 100% confirm this. When Jital's brother was interviewed about it, he expressed deep concern that the chilling footage may have captured his sister's final moments. The search continued into the second day, with rescue officers carefully going through the areas where Jital might have been swept away by the flood. They focused their efforts on investigating the fast-flowing and deep sections of the river, as well as areas with dense vegetation and log jams. However, it wasn't until the 4th day of the search that Jital was finally discovered. She was found 6 miles south of the Narrows, already deceased, a grim reality later confirmed by a medical examiner. In the wake of Jital's passing, an outpouring of tributes flooded in to honor her memory. Her university described her as gracious, humble, and dedicated, while a close friend fondly remembered her as the most wonderful person and praised her kindness towards everyone. A funeral service was later held for Jital on Thursday, August 25, 2022, at Metcalf Mortuary in St. George, Utah. In August of 1960, a team of geologists led by the notable Vladimir Dubchenko went on a daring expedition into the expansive and wild terrain of North Baikal Taiga, a mission that aimed to reveal the ancient geological mysteries hidden within the rugged landscape. The team was comprised of individuals of diverse expertise, including Nina, a highly skilled and experienced geologist whose expertise was widely acknowledged, and Nikolai Troyan, a passionate and ambitious young enthusiast eager to showcase his abilities in the field. On the cold morning of August 10th, Nina and Nikolai, carrying lots of maps, tools, and their own determination to explore something new, set out on their daily exploration. However, nature seemed to not cooperate with them, making a seemingly routine mission turn into a dangerous one. As they navigated through the dangerous terrain of the dense forest, they encountered obstacles such as the entangled foliage, slippery ground, and the daunting Sitka River, whose swift and turbulent waters posed a serious challenge. Not bothered by these challenges on their way, they still continued. However, their own fate had a different plan in store for them. The weather abruptly took a turn for the worse, with dark clouds looming ominously overhead, accompanied by howling winds, torrential rain, and swirling snowflakes that caught the geologists off guard. Even the experienced event-key guides accompanying the team were taken aback by the sudden intensity of the storm. Despite the increasingly hostile conditions, Nina and Nikolai persisted in their pursuit of the expedition's goal, and they were really determined to know what's hidden beneath these geological wonders. However, as the storm intensified, communication with the base camp went weak, leaving them isolated and vulnerable amidst the unforgiving storm. Hours passed by, which eventually turned into days, and concern began to grow among their colleagues at the base camp. When Nina and Nikolai failed to return as scheduled, a search party led by Vladimir Dubchenko was swiftly assembled. The team searched the area tirelessly, their voices echoing through the wind as they called out the names of their missing comrades, hoping for a faint response to guide them in the right direction. Yet there was no response or even traces from the two, offering no clues to the whereabouts of the vanished geologists. The heavy snowfall had effortlessly covered their tracks, rendering them almost impossible to trace. The relentless search continued, carrying with them the frantic hope of discovering Nina and Nikolai alive. What seemed to be days turned eventually into months, and the prolonged absence of Nina and Nikolai cast a gloomy shadow over their colleagues, who refused to give up and still hoped for a miracle to come. Various theories and speculations were made, ranging from accidental mishaps to encounters with wild animals. Yet none could provide a definitive explanation for their inexplicable disappearance. Some said that they might have succumbed to the treacherous currents of the Sitka River, while others entertained the grim possibility of a fatal encounter with a predatory beast. However, lacking tangible evidence to support these theories presented, they merely remained as unverified. With the passage of time, the mystery surrounding their vanishing deepened, giving rise to increasingly fantastical speculations. Supernatural interventions and extraterrestrial abductions entered the conversations between people who speculated, overshadowing the efforts to uncover the truth. With the swirling rumors, the undeniable fact remained. The whereabouts of Nina and Nikolai remained a mystery. Years slipped away, and the memory of the missing geologists gradually faded from the public consciousness. Yet for those intimately acquainted with their story, the ache of their absence lingered on, and more questions have yet to be answered with time. In the end, the inexplicable disappearance of Nina and Nikolai remains a mystery in the records of the North Baikal Taiga. The overarching question persists. What really happened on that very day? Did they meet a tragic end? Or did they go on a mysterious trip into the unknown, forever hidden from everyone? Only time can show the answers. In September 2009, the city of Novosibirsk, Russia, was rocked by the sudden disappearance of Irina Safonova, a 28-year-old child psychologist. The events leading up to her vanishing act seemed mundane, almost routine. Irina had spent the evening at the Pobeda Cinema with her boyfriend Alexander Skurikin. They had watched a movie together, sharing popcorn and laughter like any other couple. At around 11:30 p.m., the movie ended, and Alexander drove Irina back to her apartment building. Surveillance footage captured her entering the building at precisely 12:02 a.m., stepping into the elevator with the familiarity of someone who had done it countless times before. That was the last time Irina was seen or heard. The alarm was raised when Irina failed to return home that night. Alexander, concerned for her safety, tried calling her phone repeatedly, but to no avail. He then contacted Irina's son, Andrei, who confirmed that his mother hadn't come home. Panic ensued, and the search for Irina Safonova began. The initial search efforts were massive and widespread. Family, friends, and concerned citizens combed the streets of Novosibirsk, plastering the city with missing posters and appealing for any information that could lead to Irina's whereabouts. Police officers questioned witnesses and reviewed surveillance footage from nearby buildings, hoping for a clue that might solve the mystery. Despite their exhaustive efforts, the search yielded no concrete leads. The days passed by, and Irina's disappearance remained an unsolved puzzle. Theories began to emerge, each more speculative than the last. One theory suggested that Irina had been abducted, perhaps by someone she knew or by a stranger lurking around her neighborhood. Another suggested that she had fallen victim to foul play. Her disappearance was planned by someone with a motive known only to them. Yet without evidence to support these theories, there remained nothing more than speculations. As time passed, suspicion fell on those closest to Irina. Alexander, her boyfriend, faced intense scrutiny, despite passing a polygraph test and cooperating fully with the investigation. The possibility of his involvement loomed large, casting a shadow over their once ordinary relationship. Irina's estranged husband, Vladimir Safonov, also came under suspicion. Living in Moscow at the time of her disappearance, Vladimir's whereabouts and motives were questioned. Yet, like Alexander, there was no evidence linking him to Irina's mysterious disappearance. Despite the absence of concrete evidence, the investigation continued, fueled by the hope of finding answers for Irina's family and friends. However, as time passed, and the months eventually turned into years, the case grew cold, and Irina's fate remained unknown. Today, the disappearance of Irina Safonova continues to haunt the city of Novosibirsk. What happened to Irina on that night? Was she the victim of a random act of violence? Or was her disappearance part of a larger, more sinister scheme? And perhaps more importantly, will the truth ever come to light? Or will Irina's story remain forever shrouded in mystery? What if Irina's disappearance was carefully planned by someone within her inner circle, hiding their true intentions behind a facade of normalcy? What secrets lay buried in the streets of Novosibirsk, waiting to be unearthed by those brave enough to seek them out? And ultimately, will justice ever be served for Irina Safonova, or will her fate remain a mystery for eternity? Yellowstone National Park has many secrets hidden within its vast boundaries. The disappearance of Tylee Ryan and her younger brother J.J. Vallow is one of its secrets revealed a year later. Tylee Ryan and her adopted younger brother J.J. Vallow were two siblings. J.J. was an extraordinary boy with autism. They were like other children, filled with laughter and dreams, brightening their parents' world. Tylee, born September 24, 2002, had a radiant smile that could light up the darkest days. JJ, a playful 7-year-old, brought joy and excitement to their household. Little did they know that their lives were about to take a devastating turn. The family went to Yellowstone National Park, where both kids mysteriously disappeared on September 8, 2019. Tylee was Lori Vallow's daughter from her third husband. Her intense cries give the impression that she loved her kids a lot. However, no one knew the true story behind that. As the days passed, whispers of suspicious events surrounded the family. Tylee and JJ's mother, Lori Vallow, had a complex history with multiple husbands, and questions were raised about the circumstances of her previous spouses' deaths. In the whispers, Lori's ex-husband Charles met a tragic end, further casting a mysterious turn on the family. The FBI, Idaho Police Department, and the locals rallied in an attempt to locate the kids, hoping for their safe return. However, the search uncovered not only the disappearance of the children, but also a series of unsettling events. As investigators delved more deeply, they uncovered a string of mysterious deaths connected to Lori Vallow. Her third husband, Joseph Ryan, had met an untimely demise, raising questions about the dark cloud that seemed to follow Lori. The shadow of suspicion loomed over the family, and the once close-knit community was in the middle of an unfolding tragedy. The situation took a grim turn when the coroner testified during Lori Vallow's murder trial, revealing the heartbreaking details of Tylee Ryan's demise. The cause of her death was labeled a homicide, but the manner remained unspecified. The town was left in shock, grappling with the incomprehensible loss of innocent souls. Court documents later revealed the horrifying manner in which siblings JJ and Tylee were found in Chad Daybell's yard in 2020. The details painted a chilling picture of the events leading to their tragic end, sending shivers through the community. The discovery sent ripples of sorrow across the town as the reality of the cold-blooded acts committed against these innocent children became apparent. The investigation continued, unraveling a web of deceit and darkness. Chilling details emerged, exposing the depth of the tragedy. Shallow graves in Chad Daybell's property became the final resting place for Tylee and JJ. The once peaceful town now grappled with the aftermath of a crime that shattered the community's sense of security and belief in motherhood. The total weight of Lori Vallow's actions came to light in the courtroom. The trial unfolded, revealing the harrowing attempts to cover up the horrific crime. Lori faced charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and grand theft in connection with the deaths of her children. The court proceedings painted a sad picture of a mother-turned-culprit, leaving the community in mourning and disbelief. As the trial continued, the community grappled with the aftermath of this heartbreaking incident. Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, once the source of joy and laughter, became symbols of a tragedy that forever changed the lives of those who knew them. The echoes of their story served as a sad memory of the delicacy of innocence in the face of darkness. In Glendive, Montana, a 36-year-old woman named Renee Arcand embarked on a journey that would take an unexpected turn. Renee, a Wisconsin native, had set out on a road trip from her home state to Oregon, planning to enjoy the tranquility of Montana's wilderness. Little did she know that her adventure would take a distressing twist. Renee had chosen to camp near the Yellowstone River at the Intake Fishing Access Site, a picturesque spot 15 miles north of Glendive. Yellowstone River flows through northwestern Wyoming, southern and eastern Montana, and northwest North Dakota, and covers an area of 692 miles. The river is so dangerous that it is approximately 42 feet deep. It was a simple plan to camp for 5 days, surrounded by nature's beauty. However, on the night of Monday, June 26, 2023, something went awry. Standing 5'5" with hazel eyes and brown hair, Renee mysteriously vanished, leaving her companion in utter distress. On the fateful morning of Friday, June 30th, 2023, a sense of urgency gripped Renee Arcand's companion as they discovered her mysterious disappearance. Desperation led them to search near the camping station. Still, Renee was nowhere to be found, deepening the mystery surrounding her vanishing. Soon, they reported her missing to the authorities. The once joyful camping trip became a frantic search for a missing soul. With her companion's plea for help, the Dawson County Sheriff's Department and the Richland County Sheriff's Department initiated searches to unravel the mystery. Renee's companion, gripped with worry, shared the details of her last known whereabouts. The campsite near the Intake Diversion Dam became the focal point of the search efforts. As the days unfolded, the search extended to include the neighboring areas and the Yellowstone River, covering approximately 70 miles. Desperation grew as searches on land, air, and water failed to yield any trace of Renee. Helicopters circled the skies. Drones scoured the terrain. Despite the high water level, 2 boats navigated the river without seeing the missing woman. The efforts were never-ending, but the high waters and muddy river proved formidable obstacles. As days turned into weeks, the community's gratitude extended to the Richland County Sheriff's Department, who tirelessly joined the search. Badlands Search and Rescue from Watford City, North Dakota, supported the efforts. Daily searches became a routine, each passing day marked by uncertainty. Sheriff Ross Kanan expressed gratitude, but acknowledged their challenges to find Renee. Mother Nature seemed to hold the key to the unfolding mystery. Despite the absence of eyewitnesses, the authorities believed their best guess that Renee might have gone into the water. Suppose the scenario is as speculative as it seems. In that case, the grim reality sets in, and Renee's survival chances diminish. The river might have brutally swallowed Renee, taking her into the darkest depths of its powerful currents. Her chances of defeating nature's forces become gradually slim in such a dire situation. The raging river, a powerful force, may have ended up being the regrettable destination, concealing Renee's fate in the mysterious and dangerous waters, and forcing those looking for her to face the brutal reality of nature's relentless force. However, in that small Montana town, the quiet wilderness echoed with the collective hope of finding Renee Arcand. The once serene campsite bore the weight of an unsolved puzzle, and the Yellowstone River whispered secrets yet to be uncovered. Worry started to spread in the quiet town of Fort Collins. Christine Cummings, a 32-year-old woman, had vanished without a trace, leaving her friends and family in distress. The story began on a winter day, December 29, 2020, when Christine was last seen at home. Days slipped away with an eerie quietness, resembling a faint whisper lost in the wind. A relative, troubled by the unsettling silence over Christine Cummings' absence, finally took action. As the calendar turned to New Year's Day, the distressing news rippled through the community, reaching the attentive ears of Fort Collins Police Services. Responding to the call, officers rushed to Christine's home with a sense of urgency, yearning to unravel the mystery that enveloped her disappearance. Upon arrival, a heavy stillness lingered, amplifying the concern. What was supposed to be a vibrant house on a new year now echoed with silence, and the search intensified without any sign of life. Notably absent was Christine's trusty companion, a black Jeep SUV, which seemed to have vanished along with its owner, adding a layer of perplexity to the unfolding enigma. In the heart of Fort Collins, the quest for answers commenced, each passing moment amplifying the mystery surrounding Christine Cummings' inexplicable disappearance. Fueled by concern and urgency, the investigators delved into the mystery. Christine's family believed she might have embarked on a hiking adventure, a possibility that raised both hope and worry. The detectives found no signs of foul play, adding a layer of mystery to the unfolding tale. Amid worry, Christine's friend Melissa George emerged as a beacon of hope. In an era of digital connections, Melissa took to the online realm, creating a spreadsheet with trails for people to search. A collective effort began, with friends, family, and concerned citizens joining virtually to find their missing friend. Melissa, who had known Christine since 2005, painted a picture of her friend as level-headed and deeply passionate about her life in Fort Collins. The disappearance seemed surreal, as it was entirely out of character for Christine. Concerns echoed through the community, with friends and family bewildered by her sudden absence, unaware of any plans for a grand hiking trip. As the investigation unfolded, Fort Collins police widened their search. They contacted Yellowstone National Park and Rocky Mountain National Park, knowing that Christine was known to explore the trails of these two majestic landscapes. The search expanded beyond city limits, encompassing the vast wilderness where Christine might have ventured. Amidst the worry and uncertainty, details about Christine emerged, creating a vivid image for those searching for her. She drove a 2015 black Jeep SUV with the license plate EOL 263. Christine, a white woman with brown hair and blue eyes, stood 5'7" tall, weighing 140 pounds. Each detail became a beacon for those hoping to spot her in the vastness of nature. Days turned into nights, and the community remained on edge, awaiting news of Christine's safe return. The story of a missing woman unfolded, bringing together a community in shared concern and collective efforts. The quiet town of Fort Collins became a backdrop to a tale of friendship, worry, and the unwavering hope for a happy ending. But despite all efforts, there was no sign of Christine. No one knew where she went and why. Her disappearance is still a mystery, waiting to be solved. In the vast American landscape, 22-year-old Gabby Petito embarked on a road trip with her 23-year-old boyfriend, Brian Laundrie. The journey promised adventure and discovery, but it took a chilling turn when Gabby ceased contact with her family in August 2021. Amid the unknown trails and open roads, Brian Laundrie became a person of interest as the haunting silence surrounded Gabby's disappearance. He vanished without a trace, setting off an intense search by the FBI and Florida police in a sprawling nature reserve. Gabby's last connection with her family echoed from the picturesque Grand Teton National Park on August 25th. A realm of natural beauty, it soon became the focal point of a mystery that would captivate the nation. As the search unfolded, a peculiar aspect of the Yellowstone National Park region reignited discussions about the infamous Zone of Death. A legal anomaly, this 80-kilometer strip of land straddling Idaho and Wyoming presented a challenge for law enforcement. A glitch in the Constitution rendered it difficult to police, leaving a theoretical haven for criminals. Michigan State University law professor Brian Kalt's 2005 academic paper, The Perfect Crime, highlighted the legal problem. In this zone, spanning both states, felonies might be committed with impunity due to jurisdictional complexities. The clash of Idaho and Wyoming, a constitutional enigma, posed a unique challenge to justice. The Sixth Amendment demanded criminal prosecutions within the state and district where the crime occurred. Yet the zone's peculiar legal status made summoning a jury nearly impossible, creating a potential loophole for those seeking to evade justice. Against this backdrop, the search for Gabby Petito intensified. National Park rangers combed through Grand Teton, deploying elite search and rescue units to unravel the mystery concealed within the vast wilderness. Gabby's final text message warned of Yosemite National Park's impending lack of phone service, adding an eerie note to her journey. Days later, her van surfaced in Florida and raising more questions than answers. As investigators delved into the Florida wilderness, Brian Laundrie's potential whereabouts became a focal point. The Mabry-Carlton Reserve, a sprawling 25,000-acre habitat, drew attention as reports surfaced that he could be concealed within its depths. FBI agents and local police meticulously combed through the reserve, prompted by Laundrie's family suggesting he might have entered the area. The search unfolded against the backdrop of a picturesque road trip documented on Instagram, capturing the idyllic moments of their journey across the U.S. However, the narrative turned sinister as more than 2 weeks passed since Brian Laundrie returned to his Florida home alone, leaving unanswered questions and an unsettling void. Gabby's family, growing increasingly concerned, filed a missing person report on September 11th. As the story unfolded, the Northport police faced a complex scenario. Brian Laundrie's parents, claiming not to have seen their son since Tuesday, contacted the FBI. Though Laundrie was a person of interest, he was not yet wanted for a crime, adding a layer of complexity to the evolving situation. Amidst the twists and turns of this unfolding tale, the road trip that once symbolized adventure and romance transformed into a mystery, shrouded in the vast landscapes of the American West. As the haunting mystery of Gabby Petito's disappearance lingers, the search for answers has intensified. Despite relentless efforts, no significant clues have emerged to unveil Gabby's whereabouts. Adding complexity to the puzzle, her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, has mysteriously escaped from his home, deepening the case's intrigue. July 23, 2008, marked the beginning of what was intended to be an adventurous escapade for Kathleen Terzak, a 50-year-old woman from Elkton, Maryland, and her husband, Bob Terzak, 58. As they were experienced mountaineers, the couple set off on a week-long trek through North Cascades National Park, Washington, fueled by their shared love for the outdoors and their desire to explore the wilderness. Kathleen's life before this fateful journey was one marked by achievement and dedication. Born in Wilmington, Delaware, she graduated from Mount Pleasant High School in 1976, before going on a journey of education and professional success. After obtaining an associate's degree in the sciences from Delaware Technical and Community College, Stanton campus, Kathleen began her career with Stewart Pharmaceuticals, later acquired by AstraZeneca. Her tenure spanned over 25 years, during which she rose to become an associate scientist, earning the respect and admiration of her colleagues. Outside of her professional life, Kathleen was known for her adventurous spirit and passion for outdoor activities. Running, golfing, and maintaining her fitness were integral parts of her lifestyle. However, it was her annual excursions to the mountains with her husband Bob that brought her the greatest joy. Together, they explored the vast wilderness of the western United States and the Pacific Northwest, forging unforgettable memories while exploring nature. As the Terzaks went on their journey into the North Cascades, they were met with unforeseen challenges. The weather, initially forecasted to be mild, quickly turned hostile, with wet, windy conditions making their descent risky and dangerous. In the midst of this adversity, tragedy struck. Kathleen slipped on the rough terrain, and Bob, witnessing her fall, was powerless to prevent it. She plummeted past him into a deep moat formed by snow melting away from a rock face. Despite Kathleen's injuries, Bob sprang into action, hauling her 35 feet up from the bottom of the moat onto the glacier. However, her condition deteriorated rapidly, and she slipped into unconsciousness. With the elements growing fiercer by the minute, Bob made a tent and did his utmost to shield his wife from wind and rain, cutting away her wet clothes and bundling her in their sleeping bags. For a harrowing 24 hours, Bob fought tirelessly to save his wife's life, administering CPR until exhaustion overcame him, and Kathleen succumbed to her injuries on Sunday evening. The loss of his beloved Kathleen weighed heavily on Bob's heart as he faced the daunting task of seeking help in the middle of the unforgiving wild. On Monday, Bob went on a perilous journey to find help, traversing glaciers and rough lands for 10 to 12 hours. Battling fatigue and the elements of nature, he finally reached the north bank of the Cascade River, only to face yet another challenge. Attempting to cross the river, Bob fell into the water and became ensnared beneath a log, narrowly escaping drowning. Despite his injuries and the challenges he encountered, Bob continued, eventually finding help and alerting authorities to Kathleen's whereabouts. However, bad weather delayed the recovery efforts until Thursday, when Kathleen's body was recovered from the tent pitched atop Klawati Glacier. The tragic demise of Kathleen Terzak left a profound impact on her loved ones and the community at large. Questions lingered about the circumstances surrounding her fall and the challenges faced by Bob in his desperate bid for help. What if the weather had been more favorable? What if they had chosen a different route? And most hauntingly, what if Kathleen's life could have been saved? As the investigation unfolded, these questions remained unanswered, leaving behind a sense of sorrow and loss. Susan Bennett, a 61-year-old woman from Bellingham, Washington, had a profound love of the mountains that spanned over a decade. She wasn't just a casual hiker, she was a dedicated climber, a beloved member of the mountaineers community, and an inspiration to all who knew her. Her story wasn't just about a tragic accident, it was about a life lived to the fullest. It was a dry yet cold morning in July 2017 when Susan and her companions set out on their trip into the heart of Washington's North Cascades National Park. The air was fresh, tinged with the scent of pine and anticipation, as they went on the torment-forbidden traverse, a challenging route that promised breathtaking views and exhilarating climbs. For Susan, it was a familiar path, one she had traveled many times before, with the grace and confidence of an experienced mountaineer. As they made their way along the south ridge of Torment, Susan and her team encountered the first obstacle of their journey, a sudden downpour that soaked their gear and threatened to dampen their spirits. But Susan was undeterred, her determination shining through as she rallied her companions and pressed onward toward their goal. For her, the mountains were more than just a playground. They were a sanctuary, a place where she felt most alive and at peace. As the day wore on, the weather cleared and the sun emerged from behind the clouds. It was a moment of peace and rest amidst the chaos of the climb, a reminder of the beauty that surrounded them and the privilege of being able to experience it firsthand. For Susan, it was a moment of pure joy. But as they approached the notch below the west ridge of Forbidden Peak, something tragic happened that would change everything. In a split second, Susan's world was turned upside down as she lost her footing and tumbled down the mountainside, her screams echoing through the valleys below. It was a moment of sheer terror as her companions looked on in horror, powerless to stop the inevitable. As Susan's body disappeared from view, her companions sprang into action, activating an emergency beacon and summoning help from the authorities. But as they waited for help to arrive, they couldn't help but wonder, what if they had taken a different route? What if they had turned back when the weather took a turn for the worse? What if they had never gone on this trip in the first place? For Susan's friends and family, the days that followed were filled with anguish and uncertainty as they waited for news of what happened to her. The authorities launched a rescue mission, braving the dangerous terrain and unforgiving weather in search of any sign of Susan's whereabouts. But as the hours turned into days, hope began to fade, replaced by a sense of resignation and acceptance. Finally, on August 12th, nearly 3 weeks after Susan's fall, her body was recovered from the depths of a crevasse on Forbidden Glacier. It was a bittersweet moment for her loved ones as they struggled with the reality of her loss and the finality of her passing. As her friends and family gathered to say their final goodbyes, they couldn't help but reflect on the legacy that Susan had left behind. She wasn't just a climber, she was a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. Her love for the mountains had touched the lives of countless individuals, inspiring them to reach new heights and overcome their own obstacles. And as they looked out over the majestic peaks that had claimed her life, they couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the time they had shared with her and the memories they would carry with them forever. In the end, Susan's story was not just a story of the dangers of climbing. It was a celebration of a life well lived, a life dedicated to pursuing her passions and embracing the beauty of the world around her. And though she may be gone, her spirit lives on in the hearts of all who knew her, forever immortalized in the mountains she loved so dearly. On a chilly afternoon in March 2024, Madison Salzberg, a spirited 20-year-old who adored skiing and the great outdoors, went on a thrilling adventure with two close friends to Mount Washington, New Hampshire. Madison, with her infectious laughter and boundless energy, was always up for an adventure, especially when it involved tackling the rugged slopes of Tuckerman Ravine. The trio set out with excitement bubbling in their veins, their laughter echoing through the crisp mountain air as they made their way up the slopes. Madison in particular couldn't contain her enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling with anticipation as they approached the ravine. As they went deeper into the ravine, the conditions became increasingly challenging. The snow was hard and icy, making it difficult to maintain their balance as they navigated the steep slopes. Despite the treacherous terrain, Madison's adventurous spirit remained undeterred, her determination to explore the mountain shining through with every step. But then disaster struck. Madison, caught off guard by a particularly icy patch, lost her footing and tumbled down the slope, disappearing from view in a matter of seconds. Her friends, stunned by the sudden turn of events, frantically searched for any sign of her amidst the snow and rocks, but she seemed to have vanished without a trace. As panic set in, Madison's friends immediately called for help, alerting emergency services to the situation. Rescue teams quickly sprang into action, deploying helicopters and search parties to scour the mountain in search of Madison. Despite their efforts, however, she remained elusive, leaving her friends and family to endure an agonizing wait for news of her fate. In the days that followed, the mountain was alive with the sound of search helicopters and the shouts of rescue workers, determined as they combed the terrain for any sign of Madison. Despite their efforts, however, she remained missing, leaving her loved ones to grapple with the terrifying uncertainty of what had really happened to her. As the search stretched on, theories began to emerge about what might have happened to Madison. Some speculated that she may have become disoriented in the harsh conditions, while others feared that she may have suffered serious injuries in her fall. Could she have avoided the tragic events that ultimately led to her disappearance? And what if the search teams had been able to find her before it was too late? Could they have saved her from the icy grip of the mountain, bringing her back safely to her loved ones and sparing them the pain of her loss? The search continued, and the echoes of unanswered questions seemed to stretch on into infinity, leaving a haunting sense of uncertainty in their wake. But amidst the fear and despair, one thing remained certain. Madison Salzberg, with her adventurous spirit and enthusiasm for new adventures in life, would be dearly missed by all who knew her. As the cool September breeze swept over New Hampshire in 1855, 23-year-old Lizzie Bourne from Kennebunk began her last adventure, a hike up Mount Washington. With her adventurous spirit, Lizzie eagerly got ready to conquer the 6,288-foot mountain, joined by her Uncle George, Cousin Lucy, and Uncle George's wife, Aunt Jane. Their adventure started without any trouble. They took the morning train from Saco, Maine, and arrived at the Glen House, a charming hotel located at the foot of the mountain. A mix of excitement and nervousness hung in the air as they looked at Mount Washington's daunting peak, covered in mist. Ignoring the warnings of bad weather to come, Lizzie urged her Uncle George and his daughter Lucy to start climbing right away, instead of waiting until morning. They embarked on the 8-mile carriage trail to the summit with enthusiasm and a longing for adventure. By 4 p.m., the group started feeling tired and took a short break at the halfway house. At this location, construction workers, aware of the approaching storm, suggested that they abandon their climb. Nevertheless, driven by a strong will and misconception regarding their chances of beating the elements, the girls convinced Uncle George to continue the trek, ignoring the warnings as mere speculation. Visibility decreased and temperatures dropped as darkness fell over the mountain. The group fought to stay oriented in the dangerous terrain, battling strong winds and dense fog. Even with all the hard work they put in, they came to the unsettling realization that their journey was not yet complete. With determination, Uncle George built a basic rudimentary stone wall to protect his loved ones from the harsh conditions in a last-ditch effort to survive, a feeble wall against the unrelenting elements. All night long, he carefully looked after Lizzie and Lucy, providing whatever small amount of comfort he could during the never-ending storm. Regrettably, Uncle George's worst fears were realized at approximately 10 p.m. when he went to see the girls and saw that Lizzie was not moving. He held her hand and noticed it was chilly. Lizzie's motionless body showed no indication of life. She had succumbed to the harsh elements of Mount Washington, and amidst its terrain, she took her last breath. The morning offered no comfort as Uncle George and Lucy, dealing with sorrow and shock, sought help from the tip-top house. 4 individuals descended and brought Lizzie's lifeless body back to the hotel. The group tried for 4 hours to bring Lizzie back with hot rocks and hot baths, but she was already gone. The workers quickly constructed a wooden box, and several women carefully placed Lizzie inside. Utilizing a pole and leather straps, 2 men assisted the grieving family and cautiously descended the mountain with Lizzie's body. The group arrived at the Glen House following a journey that lasted 3 hours. Aunt Jane welcomed them with a gloomy expression. The group traveled back to Portland on the train with the coffin. After the tragic death of Lizzie, there were unanswered questions about how she died. It was found that she was unprepared for the climb's challenges, dressed in clothes not appropriate for the harsh mountain conditions. Lizzie was dressed appropriately for the weather, wearing multiple petticoats, a thick dress, a scarf, wool cloak, and a bonnet. The garments were 35 pounds, heavy, and soaked from the rain. Additionally, her unidentified heart issue could have increased her vulnerability to the surroundings, emphasizing the importance of being adequately prepared and careful when venturing into the wilderness. Also, it later came to light that no one in the hiking group had brought water or was adequately equipped for the weather. Nevertheless, despite the sorrow and regret following Lizzie's untimely death, her story still serves as a cautionary tale of the severe conditions of Mount Washington and the importance of heeding its warnings. Lizzie's story is a collection of what-ifs. What if they had heeded the warnings before proceeding? What if they had known about Lizzie's heart condition? What if they had been better prepared for the journey? Regardless, one thing is for sure. The life of a young and adventurous woman was cut short, as the slopes of Mount Washington claimed. In the sprawling wilderness of Mount Rainier National Park, Karen Sykes went on what would become her final trip. An experienced hiker and known travel writer, Sykes knew the terrain intimately, having traveled its trails countless times before. Her passion for the mountains was palpable, her enthusiasm infectious. It was June 18, 2014, when Sykes, accompanied by her partner Robert Morthorst, went onto the Owehigh Lakes Trail, a path she knew like the back of her hand. The day held promise, yet unbeknownst to them, danger lurked amidst the peace present in the wilderness. As they ascended higher, the trail became increasingly dangerous, with melting snow obstructing their path. Here, Sykes decided to press forward alone, while Morthorst opted to wait behind, deeming the conditions too risky to continue. It was to be a momentary parting, a temporary divergence of paths to reunite at a predetermined rendezvous point. Hours passed and concern gnawed at the edges of Morthorst's mind with each ticking minute. When Sykes failed to return as expected, his apprehension gave way to panic. With a heavy heart, he reported her missing late Wednesday, triggering a massive search effort that would grip the attention of the nation. Ground crews, equipped with canine units and helicopters, searched the unforgiving terrain surrounding the Owehigh Lakes Trail, their determination unbreakable in the face of nature's might. Yet despite their best efforts, Sykes's whereabouts remained a mystery. Days turned into nights, each passing moment fraught with uncertainty. What if she had lost her bearings? What if she encountered an unforeseen danger? The questions kept coming as time went by, haunting the minds of those involved in the search. Then on June 21, 2014, a terrifying discovery shattered the hopes of those clinging to the prospect of Sykes's safe return. A ground crew stumbled upon her lifeless body, situated amidst the rugged terrain. Medical examinations later confirmed the chilling truth behind Sykes' demise. Hypothermia claimed her as its latest victim. Despite her resolve and profound knowledge of the terrain, she fell prey to nature's relentless grip. As news of Sykes' tragic fate spread across the region, it sparked a sobering reflection on the unpredictable nature of wilderness exploration. Even the most experienced adventurers are not immune to the dangers of nature, their fate entwined with the uncertain currents of the natural world. In the aftermath of her untimely passing, theories abounded, each one seeking to debunk the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Some speculated that she had lost her way amidst the labyrinthine trails of Mount Rainier, while others pondered the possibility of a chance encounter with a wild animal. However, amidst the speculation and conjecture, one truth remained immutable. Sykes' legacy is a testament to her undeniable passion for the great outdoors. Though she may have gone on her final journey in the towering peaks of Mount Rainier, her spirit lives on in the hearts of all touched by her boundless enthusiasm and love for the wilderness. What if Sykes had waited for Morthorst at the snow-covered threshold instead of going forward alone? As the questions lingered, one thing remained clear: the mountains, with their majestic allure and presence, stand as guardians and challenges to those who dare to tread upon their slopes. As the clock struck noon on January 1, 2012, the peacefulness of Mount Rainier National Park was shattered by an unexpected and harrowing event. Margaret Anderson, a devoted park ranger, went on her routine patrol, unaware of the incoming tragedy that awaited her in the snow-covered terrain. The day began like any other, with visitors bustling about the park, eager to explore its natural wonders. But amidst the flurry of activity, a lone individual set off a chain of events that would forever change the park's landscape. The scene happened at the Paradise Recreation Stop, a bustling hub situated at the 6,000-foot elevation of Mount Rainier. As Ranger Anderson diligently carried out her duties, a vehicle approached, its driver oblivious to the checkpoint ahead. Unbeknownst to the ranger, this was no ordinary traveler. This was a man with a dark past, a fugitive from justice, whose intentions were as cold and unforgiving as the mountain itself. The suspect bypassed the chain control checkpoint with a precision born of desperation, setting off a chain reaction of events that would result in tragedy. Ranger Daniel Camicia, vigilant in his duty, pursued the vehicle in an attempt to enforce the law. But the driver showed no signs of relenting, his eyes fixed on a destination known only to him. Meanwhile, Ranger Anderson, stationed at Paradise, received word of the unfolding situation. With steely resolve, she sprang into action, her instincts honed by years of service guiding her every move. Aware of the imminent danger posed by the fleeing suspect, she made the split-second decision to intercept him before he reached the crowded confines of Paradise. Positioning her vehicle strategically at Barn Flats, just half a mile below Paradise, Ranger Anderson braced herself for the confrontation ahead. With nerves of steel and a heart filled with determination, she stood at the last line of defense between the gunman and the innocent lives he endangered. As the suspect's vehicle came into view, Ranger Anderson's senses were heightened, her every muscle poised for action. But nothing could have prepared her for the chilling sight that greeted her. A man, armed to the teeth and devoid of mercy, emerging with death in his eyes. In the blink of an eye, chaos erupted on the snow-covered slopes of Mount Rainier. The suspect, wielding an AR-15 assault rifle with deadly intent, unleashed a barrage of gunfire upon Ranger Anderson, his shots echoing through the crisp mountain air like thunderclaps in a storm. Despite her efforts to evade the onslaught, Ranger Anderson was struck down in the line of duty, her life extinguished in a cruel twist of fate. As her vehicle staggered backward, a silent witness to the violence that had unfolded, the gunman disappeared into the wilderness, leaving behind a trail of devastation in his wake. In the aftermath of the tragedy, a wave of shock and grief swept through the park, echoing far beyond its snow-capped peaks. The loss of Margaret Anderson, a dedicated ranger and devoted mother, shocked the tight-knit community of Mount Rainier, leaving a lasting mark on all who knew her. But even in death, Ranger Anderson's legacy symbolizes hope and resilience. Her courageous sacrifice and memory live on in the hearts of all who cherish the beauty of Mount Rainier National Park. It was a regular day at Mount Rainier National Park, with Ranger Nick Hall gearing up for another adventure between the towering peaks. Hall was a dedicated member of the park's climbing program and was no stranger to the challenges of the mountain. Raised in the small town of Patton, Maine, Hall grew up surrounded by the beauty of the outdoors, a love for nature instilled in him from a young age by his family of emergency responders. Hall set out on a mission to rescue 4 in-distress climbers. The climbers, a group of friends from Waco, Texas, had gone on a trip to try climbing the summit of Mount Rainier, only to find themselves trapped on the dangerous Emmons Glacier route. Hall's dedication to his duty as a ranger was matched only by his love for the wilderness. With each step, he felt a sense of purpose, a desire to protect and serve those who ventured into the park's beauty. But little did he know, this would be his final mission. The weather worsened as Hall and his team descended toward the stranded climbers. High winds and thick clouds descended upon the mountain, obscuring visibility and creating hazardous conditions. Despite the challenges, Hall pressed on with determination. As he reached the crevasse where the climbers were stranded, Hall went into action. With skill and precision honed over years of training, he worked tirelessly to help the climbers. his every move calculated and deliberate. But then, tragedy happened. In a heartbreaking moment, Hall lost his footing and slipped on the icy slope, tumbling uncontrollably down the mountain. His colleagues watched in horror as he disappeared from view, his fall echoing through the silent wilderness. For Hall's family back in Patton, Maine, the news of his death was devastating. They had always known the risks of his job as a ranger, but nothing could have prepared them for this loss. Hall's father, Carter, a volunteer firefighter and EMT, struggled to come to terms with the fact that his son was gone, his voice trembling as he spoke of the son he had lost. As the days passed, the Park Service investigated the incident, seeking to understand what had gone wrong and how similar tragedies could be prevented. One theory that emerged was the normalization of risk among experienced rangers, a phenomenon that may have desensitized them to the dangers of their job. In response to Hall's death, the Park Service implemented new safety protocols and training programs, aiming to ensure that no ranger would ever again lose their life in the line of duty. For Hall's family and friends, the changes came too late. Their beloved son, brother, and friend was gone, his memory forever embedded in the rugged landscape of Mount Rainier. What if Hall had been more cautious that day, heeding the warning signs of the changing weather? What if the Park Service had implemented stricter safety measures sooner, preventing Hall's tragic fall? As the questions lingered, one thing remained certain. Nick Hall's memory would forever be a part of Mount Rainier, his family, friends, and the people he served while he was still alive.